Well, welcome to the Crook in the Book podcast, where three pastor friends discuss the Bible and how it connects to life and local church ministry. I'm Andrew Balich, and I'm actually here once again without Jeremy Muncie and Luke Miller, because I'm the one who is committed to bringing our thousands of listeners premier content. No, summer is just a busy time, and so there's different ones of us going to be doing this from time to time. But I am excited because I'm joined by Randy Harvey, who is one of our elders at Westwood Alliance Church. And he's going to be discussing with me the topic of adult Sunday school and how it fits into the overall discipleship strategy of the local church. So excited about our time together. Excuse me. But before I ask these some questions that we've talked through, we just want to remind you, we love to hear from you, questions, topics you'd like to hear us discuss. You can find on our website, Westwood. It's Westwood. Let me find it right here to make sure I give you the right one. WestwoodCMA.org. The drop down under resources will get you to our form to give us feedback, to give us questions, things you'd like to hear us discuss. So without further ado, Randy, welcome to the show. Glad that you're here. And I'd like to start out with just having you give us a brief version of your testimony and what roles you've served at Westwood over the years.
Sure. Thanks, Andrew. I grew up in a Christian home, had Christian parents. I was fortunate in that. I would acknowledge my sins and put my trust in Jesus probably very early in life, a lot of with my mom's influence and work in those in church. So that's kind of how I came to Christ. I don't really know a time that I didn't love the Lord, but I know that I was amongst the lost, and now I'm not. So
that's a wonderful testimony when the Lord intervenes with grace early on like that. Some people are troubled because they can't pinpoint a conversion experience, but well, how great it is that you don't necessarily have to. That's wonderful.
Right, and that is very fortunate. As I look back, you don't realize that when you're young until you get older. As far as a little bit more, I guess I did early on. I'm not one that likes to be in front or to have speaking roles, those kind of things, especially when I was younger. But after reading the Bible through in my high school years, in college, starting to study, all of a sudden you get to where you get full of things you just want to tell others. And so that's how I became a Sunday school teacher early on in my life, even though that would have been something if you told me in high school, I would have said, no way, ever. But
Lord works in mysterious ways, doesn't he?
Yeah, in Westwood, as far as my roles, I've been a Sunday school teacher for almost 32 years or so, and elder for about maybe 30 of those years at elder at Westwood. So I've also been the treasurer for about 20 of those years, off and on and around with others. But so that's my roles at Westwood.
Well, very good. Well, it's been a blessing to serve with you, Randy, as a fellow elder, and just have your wisdom and experience and the time. You said, 32 years, but who's counting, right? 32 years is a long time, though, of faithful ministry, and so it's a blessing to the church. Well, let's talk a little more about Sunday school then. How does Sunday school accomplish discipleship? If that's the Great Commission, right? That the Great Commission is for us to make disciples of all nations. Everything we're supposed to be doing as a church is to be a part of that mission. How does Sunday school accomplish discipleship in your mind?
Yeah, I think in several different ways, but I think, I think that the key thing for us as Christians, we should be doing our own study, our own reading, and growing in that way. And then as part of that, it's nice to have teachers and be taught by others who can help us continue to grow and expand in those areas. So I think that's the role Sunday school is the teaching side of that. I've seen also from my classes and my own self personally with Sunday school is that a lot of the topics that are taught, and if I'm teaching those or others, that even individuals amongst the class themselves will discuss afterwards or meet afterwards or amongst themselves discuss those things. And so I think it provides that kind of opportunity to kind of spawn maybe a little more individual discipleship amongst those, let alone just the corporate side of that with Sunday school itself. But I think it's very important. I think one thing about Sunday school I like is the idea that it's an open format, back and forth questions and going forth, which typically isn't part of the church service, but that I think is very important also.
Yeah, there's more interaction. There's some churches that probably are more open to interaction during corporate worship than Westwood is, but it would be kind of out of place to raise your hand and speak up during a service. But yeah, you have the opportunity to do that in Sunday school. Talk a little bit. You mentioned distinction between Sunday school and corporate worship and format and the rest. Tease that out a little bit. How does Sunday school differ from corporate worship? Why do we not want people just to come to Sunday school and then skip out on church? And why do we value Sunday school even if people are coming to church?
Right. If I was going to put the emphasis, if you're only going to come to one, you want corporate worship. That's the primary. That's the most important. That's the preaching. That's the expository side of it. But I think what ties in very well, that is Sunday school. It's teaching, not so much preaching. It's taking topics, books of the Bible, maybe at a little slower pace, a little more in depth. You can actually in Sunday school, these kind of topics, go into things that as a preacher can't get into as far as the preaching side, just the depth and different things. So I think that's the real value and the difference of Sunday school. And I think, and we've already mentioned it, but just that interaction back and forth of being able to ask questions. As a Sunday school teacher, that's sometimes the scary part is, getting the questions and learning when to say, I don't know, but we'll find out. But that's a learning process in itself.
Well, to follow up on what you said, I think one of the biggest blessings as a preacher, thinking through, you're trying to accomplish when you're expositing the word during corporate worship, a number of things, right? You're trying to engage and keep people engaged. You're trying to illustrate and apply and explain and exhort and share the gospel. And there's a lot of things going on when you put together a sermon that doesn't, like you said, allow you to necessarily drill down and talk about a topic in depth like you would sometimes like to. And so I really like Sunday school because it does allow you, you're not trying to accomplish all of those things in the same 45 minutes, right? So you can focus on that learning aspect and really drill down. And especially I know at Westwood too, in a more topical way at times as well. I mean, Sunday school is full of scripture, of course, and scripture is the foundation of what we do, but we're able to address topics in a way that we don't do through serial exposition, just going through books of the Bible during corporate worship. So, yeah, I think
that's actually probably one of the, because your example, you're going through church history right now. Well, I don't think I'm ever going to see you do a preaching series on church history.
Right.
But
as much as I'd like to, no.
Yeah. And there's value to that, and there needs to be a place for that, and I think that's what Sunday school is.
Yeah. Well, let's another question here, gearing away from kind of what the Sunday school is. How do you've been a Sunday school teacher for a number of years. You've coordinated Sunday school, adult Sunday school for Westwood for a number of years as well. How do you go about picking teachers and topics? What are you looking for? And how does that work? Is there a rhyme and reason to this, or are we just fumbling through?
Uh, Hopefully I'm not fumbling through,
It doesn't seem like it, at least.
but, well, of course, first of all, at Westwood, you must be a member. So that's the group. We're
Yeah.
looking for a member of our church to be a teacher. Um, what has been nice at Westwood right now is kind of a progression through the years. 20 years ago, I would have to teach and maybe teach a Sunday school class for 3 years straight as the only teacher. As we've grown, what's been nice is the Lord's blessed us with many gifted teachers
Yeah.
and men that's
Yes.
come in. And so people like yourselves, we have two guys with doctorates. That's amazing. That's in theology, and so that's a very nice group to pick out. I consider myself, if you know, I'm the Amos of the prophets. I'm the farmer. I'm the country bumpkin. I'm the accountant who's just studied on his own and been taught and do these. But we've actually got, like I said, two doctorates. We've got Jeremy that will teach with the seminary, Luke. We've got just other elders that are gifted with teaching. So that's what we look at. But mainly right now, we've probably got about 3 or 4 teachers that we kind of like to rotate around. The idea is to try and give the congregation a little bit of a variety, different styles. Everybody learns differently, so we want teachers that teach a little different styles. And so we do like anywhere from 3 to 4 or 5 months stints and kind of rotate around. Topics are usually picked by, or at least suggested by the teacher. I want a teacher that is passionate about what they want to teach, that has an understanding of what they want to teach. And that's going to be a better class than if I give them a foreign topic and then they have to go try and scramble to learn. So that's mostly where it comes from, is the teacher themselves. And then we just kind of vet and see how that fits into where we're at and kind of time things up that way.
That's been a real blessing over the years. I've been coming up this September. We'll have been at Westwood for 5 years. Hard to believe that, but it's been neat to see different people's teaching styles and what they're passionate about, and I think that's a great way to do it. It's a outlet. I love the diversity of our teachers, the teaching styles, the teaching topics. Like to see Luke teach. I've liked he's a lot of times will go through a book or a topic that's really been impactful to him personally in his walk with Christ, and you can see that come out as our teachers teach, and that's a real blessing. What would be, Randy, your pitch for Sunday school to someone at Westwood who maybe hasn't tried it out yet? Maybe somebody's listening and they're faithful in Sunday morning worship, but they haven't come at 9:30 for Sunday school, for adult Sunday school. What would you say as our Sunday school kind of lead elder? It would be the draw for them to do that.
Yeah, my pitch would be, first of all, we make it as easy as you can. It's just an hour before the service, so that's simple. We have, of course, Sunday school and nursery care for all ages, so we make it as convenient as possible to come out.
Yeah.
But from the standpoint of what I think you can gain, it's that interaction that you have with the teaching, with other people in the class. But I've attended Sunday school, I think, since I was 3. It's just something I've always attended, and that has been one of the biggest impacts on my ability and desire to teach. I mean, I've just grown so much. You grow definitely, of course, in corporate worship, and that's the main and the meat of it. But this just adds so much around, and coming to Sunday school and learning these things and learning some things in more detail gives you much more of a appreciation, understanding for the Sunday morning sermon itself. There's so much that is gained in depth by having some some deeper understanding of things when terminology is used in the sermons. It just provides so much more by having that. So that's what Sunday school is for me, and it's been that way. And it's school. It's Sunday school,
Yeah.
and it's different than preaching. And the idea is to learn, and
Yeah.
I think that's the goal of all Christians, to learn more.
There's a focus on the life of the mind and on like you said, kind of school knowledge. But we get practical as well. Some of our topics, and we're trying to make application and see how there's a payoff for the everyday Christian as well. But yeah, there is a focus on the life of the mind. One thing that just anecdotally for myself that is really helpful is just being at church an hour earlier and having it preps me. I'm ready for worship in a way that if I just
Very,
kind
very
of
good point.
crash land at 10:40, I'm really kind of disoriented and not ready. But it gives me some time to engage my mind and focus me on the Lord Jesus and be around God's people for some transition time, and really be ready, prepped more when corporate worship comes along. So if you haven't been to Sunday school, we meet, like Randy said, an hour before at 9:30 up the stairs in the overflow. It was the original sanctuary of Westwood, and we try to be done a few minutes before 10:30 to transition and get your kids and the rest. And there's childcare, there's kids Sunday school. There was coffee even, and there will be coffee again eventually when we're done with our building project. So we try to make it as easy and helpful as possible. But encourage you to try it out. We're doing a series on church history this summer. We're going to take a break this month of July for a few weeks and have Chris Davis teach on praying through the Bible. We're excited about that, and you'll hear more about that. And then we'll finish the summer with our church history series. And then who's up in the fall as the school year starts? Is that you, Randy? Are you back in the rotation?
Yeah, that's when you're done with your class, probably the second week of September, I will be starting, and I'm going to pick back up, continuing through the attributes of God, kind of theology proper, continue that, and that'll probably last through sometime into January or February-ish in that period.
Okay. Yeah, well, we'll look forward to that as well. I think you were on sanctification for like the first 4 years I was at Westwood.
Yeah. Yes.
But it's good. We get to take those topics slow and really dig in and get great feedback. People connect with teachers different way. Different teachers different ways. But we love going through theology in that deeper way. Well, I've got one more question for you, Rainey. But before, let me just remind our listeners to go to westwoodcma.org and fill out the form under resources, under the Crook in the Book, with questions that you have, feedback, topics that you'd like for us to address. But before we conclude, what, Randy, is the most awkward Sunday school moment that you can recall, having spent 32 years as a Sunday school teacher? What's the most cringeworthy moment for you?
Yeah, I probably got several as I try and think back.
I figured.
The most cringeworthy is getting some tough questions that you maybe can't answer. But I guess one of the most awkward or odd is I remember I had a student one time. He was new to the church, and he might have had a little bit of some mental challenges. But he was there, and but he sat right in the front row, right in front of me during the Sunday school teaching. And so he's probably 4 or 5 feet away from me, and he just kept staring at me intently the entire class.
And you think you were just direct downloading all of your knowledge and truth to him, right?
Yeah, I don't know if he's that interested in what I'm saying. It's like you could tell that it was more than just that. But finally, then towards the end of the class, he raises his hand, and so I call on him, and he asks the question. He goes, "Well, I guess it makes the statement." He says, I could look like you if I wanted to. I could comb my hair, do this, but that's when I had hair back then. Yeah, that kind of caught me off guard. I mean, not quite sure. Kind of the thing my answer back to him was, "Well, I'm not sure why you'd want to look like me."
Yeah,
But
well, the Lord gave you that quick on your feet to make light of it, make it humorous, because
but yeah, that's just fun. There are some times we do have fun in Sunday school like that. Different times.
yeah. Well, it is, and so again, just encourage you to come try it out. We have stuff for people of all ages. We'd love to see you and hear your questions and have you interact with us at Sunday school at 9:30. And so, thank you, Randy, for this conversation and joining us. We value our Sunday school classes of all ages, and that goes for adults as well. It's not just a tack on or extra thing for you to do while your kids are occupied. There's a strategy to this, focusing on the life of the mind, focusing on a teaching method that is interactive for people that learn best that way. And I like what you said to start out. We're to try to constantly be reading and growing and feeding ourselves. And the Sunday school hour is kind of a jump start to that. We're learning to feed ourselves as others teach us, and get some extra things that we're unable to do on our own, maybe, or don't have time for. And so it's valuable for discipleship, and that's why we put such an emphasis on it. And we'd love to see anybody who calls Westwood home join us for Sunday school at 9:30 on Sunday morning. So thanks again, Randy. To those who are listening, be sure to email your questions or any feedback through that form on westwoodcma.org. But until next time, for the next crook in the book, just the Lord's blessings on you. Goodbye.